Are so light, those planes.
Very light.
Do planes have airbags?
I doubt it. I don't think so. They just have that.
think so.
Because they're not really prepared for a collision like
Right.
that.
Probably not.
No.
I mean, those cockpits are so tiny. Have you? I mean, just like this.
Probably two-seater.
That was wild.
I've never seen anything like that.
I know. It's really quite scary, actually.
It was.
Not
I'm ready to hear the
expected.
rest of that story as to what the heck happened there.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he overshot the runway. I'm sure there are multiple things could have happened, but geez. I mean, and why didn't the car stop?
Glad
I guess
everybody's
not enough
okay.
time.
You're not expecting
You're
a
probably
plane
right. You're just driving along, and then there's a plane in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
All right.
All right, you guys. Well, be safe out there today. Keep an eye on anything crossing the road, and we'll keep it going.
Yep. Here's a look at what is happening
Presented
today.
by Aetna.
Well, we are here with you through the mid-morning hours to get you ready for the big events in your neighborhood today.
That's right. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. Lots ongoing out there. Lots of yucky weather in places as well, particularly when you start talking about the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure there's too much complaining going on because we need it.
We need the rain, and I'm not sure there's any complaining actually happening and I talked to someone yesterday in the Florida Panhandle, and she's like, "Oh, it's raining." I'm like, "But you kind of need the rain." She's like, "Yeah, actually, we haven't had rain for about a month." I'm like, "See," and all of a sudden her opinion changed.
Yeah,
I love that.
So I think this is actually welcome news right here, and the same thing in California. Let's see where we're at though. It's in the 50s and raining. It could be a little better.
We could maybe warm it up a notch, just a notch.
All right, well, today's a big deal. You got to buckle up. Temps in North Carolina, like around Raleigh here, and the above average conditions continue into the weekend. So not a lot of change in this. It's been, what was a warm October? The warmest, actually, and now November is, overall looking pretty mild.
I know. I was looking at finding where the cold is. You got to go way north to find it.
Yep.
And it does look like it's trying to get down here anytime soon.
Not in the next week, but maybe shortly after.
Well, breaking news this morning involving the state of the environment. Scientists warning that the effects of rising temperatures are already worsening across every region of the U.S. That's according to the newly released National Climate Assessment Report.
Yeah, and the extensive report released every 5 years paints a dire picture of what the country is expected to face.
Following the report's release, President Biden announced his administration will be spending more than $6 billion in investments to make communities across the country more resilient to the impacts of climate change. That includes strengthening our aging electric grid infrastructure and working to reduce flood risks.
Speaking of the economic risks, I remember I worked in the weather insurance industry for about a decade, and in order to price the insurance against weather hazards, you had to account for the trends in the temperature on the warming side of it. Otherwise, you would get the pricing wrong, and the economic losses would be much more severe.
Yeah, I mean, as we just heard, climate change makes life more expensive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Billion-dollar disasters.
Yeah. And of course, to try to mitigate it, that's a cost as well. So that seems to be why a lot more investment is getting into that to help communities deal with this, because it's happening and you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, for more on the National Climate Assessment, if you can make it a little earlier, that makes the time in the airport a lot smoother. But most times we can't, because there are other factors like, you can't find a parking space.
Alex, experience with this one?
Yes, I do have a story.
How about checking your baggage?
Oh, you're checking bag. We could have an hour on this, so I won't go there. But we want to hear from you. Head to X Threads as well. Share your comments. You can
This here, where the rain is falling right now. It's spread down into the Bay Area in California. We've got showers out there. Not quite yet at San Francisco, but north of there, and certainly up towards Ukiah and Eureka. It's raining.
It is a bit of a soggy start to things here for our Tuesday. And again, we'll eventually see some of this kind of filling a bit farther on off towards the south. There's the big low hanging out there, well out there into the Pacific. It's going to take its time as it works its way east, and around that we'll see disturbances helping to kind of kick off some of this wet weather that we're expected for the rest of this week.
Yeah, you kind of see a couple of lows out there, one over here, another one over here. So, it's a complicated system, and that's why we have such an unsettled pattern for the rest of the week. But none of this really pushes onshore in one full swoop.
Yeah, we don't have this big en masse thing just driving on in. Disturbances again coming on through, and each of these again with the moisture coming in from the Pacific going to add to that threat for some of the rain. And again, as you start to move into the higher terrain there of the Sierra, there'll be some snow as well.
All right, so rain today, you see where it is. We're going to be watching that through the afternoon hours into Wednesday too, even here. A lot of it Northern California, a lot of it hanging offshore. Yeah. Again, there's no big push. There's such a strong high pressure blocking everything.
Exactly, and so where that's located is going to keep it at bay for a bit. Eventually now you can see it was getting our Wednesday, we see a bit of a push of that moisture coming on in. But again, the whole bowling ball still has not made its way in. It's still hanging around out there, slowly inching eastbound.
Yeah, I mean, now we get more chances of rain. It kind of gives us some options all week to get some rain chances. We see that on Saturday. The morning might be a wet one here, up and down the entire West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. And then watch heading up into the Sierra, because there will be some snow showing up there. Again, the highest of the elevations getting into that. And notice the rainfall amounts, not huge.
But let's show you how temperatures warm up across really a lot of the country here. It's going to be confined to the northern plains, the upper Midwest, here the middle of the country for today, but it kind of expands a little more by Thursday and Friday.
It does, absolutely, no doubt about it, because we're starting to introduce some of those bigger cities in the east that get in some of this action. So yeah, a lot of folks going to be dealing with mild conditions over the next several days. So we're asking, okay, where is that cold? Well, you can see it is kind of bottled way to the north. Any kind of cold that we have out there, well north of the border there, that's where you have to find it. And trying to get it here into the States?
No.
Not happening this week.
The jet stream is just so far north here. That cold air not coming down. It's warm in Canada, too. And so we're running above average. That puts our temperatures in the 60s in Minneapolis. You're in the 60s in Chicago. I mean, we're still in the 70s in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, pretty wild. So as we progress into basically for the rest of the day and moving into the latter part of the week, you can see how things begin to shift a little bit farther to the east. That ridge builds in that direction. And so those areas from the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, you will find your numbers going in the up direction.
On Friday, we see it in the Northeast with temperatures in Boston in the mid-60s. New York City, you'll be mild as well. Throughout Pennsylvania, actually above average. Virginia, too. Raleigh, 71 degrees. We're still in the mid-70s in Charleston.
Yeah, so getting closer to Turkey Day, not necessarily feeling like it. Now, here's a look at Minneapolis, because there is going to be a drop in the temperatures. But the drop is happening and only taking us to kind of where we should be.
Average.
Yeah, we go from the 60s to the 40s. Big drop, but
still actually above average.
Exactly.
I mean, technically. Omaha, Nebraska, same kind of thing. You know, our average is 51. So that 53 on Friday is still a little bit above average.
Yeah, amazing. Well, don't forget our question of the day.
That debris falling from the sky. Yikes.
And you know, those fire whirls sometimes send that debris and burning embers a long distance and can be responsible for spreading the fire very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how some of those homes can be threatened.
Indeed. Well, we're here with you through the mid-morning hours to get your day, get you ready for the big events of the day, of course, not only where you are, but in your neighborhood as well.
That's right. We got you covered here from coast to coast. Lots to track, including some soggy conditions here along parts of the Gulf Coast. And some may say, oh, man, we got wet weather. I think vast majority are saying, yes, we got wet weather.
Finally, after a month of no rain, we're getting some rain. New Orleans, showers out there, especially southern Louisiana getting hit with some of the biggest rainfall.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to see it for the next couple of days. This is not just a quick hitter. This is going to be with us now for the rest of the week, I think.
So we will time it out and let you know here how much rain you're going to be getting. Also today, the 5th National Climate Assessment has been released. We're going to share details of that. And the president is speaking this morning on the climate crisis. So we'll bring that to you live when it happens.
All right. Well, let's focus in on some of this wet weather that we are tracking and how long we've got to deal with it here. We talked about it's not just going to be an in and out situation. Wet conditions for us.
Right, and we're going to break it up into two pieces. Alex, you're going to first talk about what's going on along the North Gulf Coast, and then I'll look at it in a little bit about Florida and how we deal with the rain in the next couple of days there.
All right, let me head on over.
All right.
So show folks how this is all playing out.